it all about? What's it all about? What up, y'all? Oh, how we doing? What's it all about? A couple of weeks ago, I got a message from a friend, somebody who watches the show pretty regularly, and they sent me a very nice message. I appreciated it. That thanked me for these conversations, the conversations we're having about authenticity and about love, how not enough people are having this conversation, and we're thankful for me putting the effort in and helping her think about things differently. And I was grateful for that message. And um, the other day, also on Facebook, I got a message. Somebody in the comment left a message telling me how I was right about the media, how I was early. I got my perspective out on the kind of reforms needed in the news media early, years and years ago. I'd been working on this, started an independent news media, independent magazine several years ago, if not a decade ago, over a decade ago. And, you know, somewhere around 2020, I started to very publicly talk about media literacy and how important it is, and call out some of the bad actors that I saw. And this person left a comment saying that I was right and they appreciate it and they hope that I'm doing well and to keep going. It was also very encouraging. So, what's it all about? I'm grateful for those messages. um, the explicit sort of thanks is kind of few and far between, at least at this point in my life. Um, Very few messages like that. So I really do appreciate when they do show up. Um, but beyond that, there's so many implicit things that aren't so explicit, things that aren't so obvious and aren't so direct. I really did. Like I said, when I first left CNN, and I'm trying to figure out how to move and how to use my voice, and nervous about burning bridges and this and that. Um, I knew I needed to figure some things out. So I made some videos, and I'm talking about media literacy, and I'm critiquing cable news, and I'm calling out Brian Stelter for being um, for appropriating media literacy instead of actually helping us, and covering for the organization. Oh yeah, I'm calling all kinds of things out, right? And I felt like I was screaming in the void. I was posting almost every day. I would take a video from CNN and I would break down how the words, the language that they were using was on one level you think you're having a conversation, on another level they're hiding and obscuring things with intention, and start to try to talk about linguistics and all of these things. And for months and months, man, I felt like the response was a little tepid. People would interact a little bit, but not so much. I'm like, people aren't feeling me. People aren't understand what I'm saying. Like, I'm not here just saying stuff. I'm not out here. I'm not actually a disgruntled ex-employee. I left CNN on good terms, actually. Jake Tapper and Wolf Blitzer did the proposal video for when I proposed to Shiva. So I wasn't a disgruntled person. I'm not someone just saying things to get clicks. I'm actually pointing to something that's that's real, And then I noticed that I started seeing on YouTube all these, and I said this before, you're seeing on YouTube these guys, these videos would pop up about media literacy or about linguistics and exactly the things that I'm talking about. And I would see the success that they were having. And I had this feeling of jealousy at first, this feeling of, wait, what about, where's mine? I would kind of want to learn from what they were doing. And I thought I had a very unique perspective. I thought I had a very unique background that people would want to hear these messages. And the shift for me, and part of this conversation on healing, was how there was a shift that from a healed place, I get to notice that actually this is the world that I was wanting, strangely. I thought that it would look a certain way. I thought that God, or I thought that the universe would develop in a certain way, and it's developed differently. But we are certainly at a place where people are critical of the cable news. People are, the discernment is up. The ratings on corporate news is down. The distrust is high. And not just that, not just a critique and an anger at what, the abuse of the corporate news, but the adjustment that the next wave will have to be us. We are the journalists. I started the hashtag, we are all journalists. And again, sort of tepid response to this, but whether I got a personal response over that, what's happened is the development is that people have taken up their cameras, people have picked up their pens, they are hitting the keyboard, people are talking about things on their own. Whether it's Trump's birthday celebration or the violence in Iran or the Gaza genocide with Israel, people, when I grew up, people would have been borrowing the language from cable news. We would have been sort of having the cable news conversation in our homes, you know what I'm saying? At the cookouts, at schools, at the water cooler, at the barbershops. And now we're not that. Like, we are the journalists. Young people and old people we are using our language to articulate what we're seeing in the world, which is what it is, which is what it means to be a journalist. And regular people on TikTok and on Instagram and on YouTube and elsewhere are dwarfing the corporate news output. It's much more trusted, and people are developing their capacities, getting more and more interested, and it's happening. And it was a real wild moment to shift from a kind of like being annoyed, trying to understand why. How was it that all these other people were just sprouting? People, I would just find people who were doing media literacy and had 40,000 subscribers in this, and I'm like, where is this? And to instead see it as, wow, it's happening. This person is doing a ton of the work that I thought I had to do. They've already made several videos, and this perspective is good. I can just click share on this, and we can support each other, actually. So now with this, and like I said, a lot of the media literacy stuff continues down this path, and it seems like there's gonna be another thunderstorm tonight. Wow! But the media literacy stuff will watch. They'll watch CNN, watch Fox News, and kind of lament and critique, and I think there's a room for that. I think that's very important, and kudos to the people who do that work. But I'm grateful that I think the space is in much better hands. I think people have the right amount of discernment. Maybe not the right amount. We can still improve our discernment for sure, but the right amount of distrust and empowerment. People are calling things as they see it, and I think that's creating an entirely different ecosystem. The words being used, and while cable news disallows certain words, we allow them. We map reality through them using our own values and our own intentions. And it's not perfect. And there's a lot of fuckery as well. There's a lot of clown shit. There's a lot of manipulation and propaganda. But all that stuff gets sorted out. I mean, we're learning about motivations in the journalism space. We're learning about journalism as an endeavor for truth, not a corporate or profit seeking venture, not a clickbait venture. Why it's so important that it's a real attempt to give language to truth. I think that's great. And it's allowed me to actually move and get even weirder, because underneath it all is a cosmic, and underneath the whole discourse on truth and on journalism is a massive cosmic spiritual phenomena about truth, about genuineness, about perception, about linguistics, about what is, about the nature of humanity. And I've been able to lean into that. And it's been crazy because, 5 years ago, these things, me talking about religion was just awkward. It's just I don't want to do it. My ideas might be weird. These are weird domains that I felt uncomfortable talking about. But time and again, I've been called to get uncomfortable and to talk about things that I felt uncomfortable talking about. When I realized that cable news was intentionally sabotaging the BLM movement warping the language there and harming progress for Black empowerment. Had to own that my voice mattered and I could articulate this right and I could write stuff for that. The gender stuff, the non-binary gender stuff and the pronouns and all that. I was like, I'm not a member of that group and it's really weird and you know, people are being canceled. Let me just stay away from that. I was compelled to like, yo, give it a shot, talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And I've done that. You know, my stuff is on my website, BillyMartin.com, and I've done a few videos about that here. Israel, Palestine, you know, while people to stay quiet and to avoid this, that this is something that should be avoided, that it's too easy to be tripped up. You'll be quickly labeled, canceled. Was compelled to get into it because I actually know the conflict. I actually am an authority, not just on the conflict, but on international relations generally and on the ethics of our global relations. And to talk about the news media, my ex-employer, and the networks that I'd developed there, like to have a critique as instead of avoiding it in order to keep relationships or to never challenge them. Anyway, the point I want to get to is where I'm at now is as I'm talking about God and I'm talking about genuineness and authenticity, you know, I feel like I'm freer. I'm getting freer to get into these weirder spaces, you know, to spend 4 videos talking about healing, like 8 videos about authenticity and what I think that means. Connecting that all to my understanding of physics and spirituality, and the intersections of spirit of you know our sciences and linguistics and perception. And it's a description of what is. I'm describing what is. I am not describing something other than what is. You know, that's the powerful truth of it, is that the mundane stuff that we take for granted, the mundane of what is miraculous. It is paradoxically both. And the magic of this experience rests in our ability to be present, to understand that it's all one, to shed the stories as I've said. And when you shed the stories and the labels, the categories which seem to tell you, which have made you feel comfortable in the past, that got you a sense that you know things, you know this tree, you know that squirrel, you know stuff, you know left, you know right, you know Democrat, you know Republican, you know the religions, you know good and bad, you know stuff. When you shed all that, you actually go through a process and realize that there's magic in all of these mundane lives that we're leading, and these everyday lives that we're leading, if we will see it, if we'll step into it, if we will engage with it, if we will embody the magic. Because things are, you know, your ability to perceive something rests on the story you have before the event occurs. It rests on the assumptions that you've built up, rests on the language that you use or that you're familiar with. You can only meet this incredibly infinitely complex moment at the point of your awareness. There's no other choice. So become curious, seek knowledge, and notice that, like, when you come to these videos that I'm making, we are talking about life-changing, perspective-changing truths. We're talking about God. This is not like, you know, I try to have fun with it. I try to laugh. I try to like actually bring real world stuff to it. I try to bring my perspective. I try to tell you who I am. I think that's important. But again, shout to the people who come and watch my videos. Shout to my nearly 800 subscribers. Shout to everything that you guys are doing and going through. And thanks for showing up. Shout out to the people that sent me messages and have given me encouragement to keep going. Because it's been weird. It's been weird, but it's also been dope and beautiful. And I'm a very lucky person, and I'm grateful for you. So yeah, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow. Subscribe to the channel. Peace.